All right, hey pastors, today we're in the studio with Ross, and today we're talking about culture before structure when it comes to creating a discipleship culture. What are we talking about here?
Well, as I've worked with pastors trying to implement discipleship culture in their church, a lot of times it takes a long time to change the institutional structure because you decide you want to do it, but you still have to work through a lot of structural changes and organizing maybe your leaders and so forth.
Right.
And so it's really important to start individually and developing the culture yourself in your own practices before you can,
Even
really
introduce it to the church,
right,
institutionally.
Right, because there's a whole bunch of reasons. Because number one is you learn how to do it yourself.
Right.
Number two is you start to develop positive stories and wins that you can share.
Yeah.
And then number three is you get people used to the idea. So you're not just introducing it cold turkey,
Right.
like a whole new thing, and you're going to get a lot of pushback if you just try to introduce it as a program institutionally.
And I suppose you're also proving to yourself that it works.
Right.
Right?
Right,
You're
exactly.
practicing yourself, you're proving that it works. Again, what we're talking about here, pastors, is using the resources at PursueGOD.org. There's a clear system, there are tools, there's a method, right? It's all there. We'll put links for that below. But we're talking about using that then in your, trying to roll that out in your church, but we're talking about two specific tips to do it culturally in your own life before you do it sort of institutionally in the life of the church.
Right. So two tips, as you said. Number one is you have to do it yourself, and I think the best way to do it is in your family, at home. Do it at home.
Right.
Because number one, you've got a pretty receptive audience there at home.
Yep.
You don't have to convince them necessarily. You don't have to create all kinds of structure and change your bylaws or whatever to do it at home.
Right.
And so
let's break that down. So let's say that we've got a pastor watching who's got young kids at home. So how would someone with young kids at home do it at home?
Well, go to Pursue God and use the kids curriculum there, PursueGOD.org/kids.
Right.
There's so many great topics for young kids, so many engaging, interesting things that it'll be easy to find stuff that'll be great.
Right. So start mentoring your kids with the tools. Now I can speak to this because my wife and I did this very thing. At the time, we had probably 11 and 13-year-old at home, and we said, "Hey kids, we're going to start using these tools." So once a week, we picked a video, we watched it as a family after dinner, and then we used the questions and had a conversation. It was great because it was good for us to see how it worked. It was good for our kids to see how it worked, and now our kids are mentors.
Right.
Which is kind of what you're getting at.
Exactly. So you get a chance to practice doing it in a easier it's not always easy to mentor your kids.
Right.
They'll push back sometimes.
Right.
They want to do something else, watch TV or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's easier than trying to create structure outside of the home in the larger church.
Right.
And so you get practice doing it. You learn how to do it yourself. You learn what's in the library, and you start to develop stories of wins. And those stories begin to get out into the community. And whenever you find a resource that you find useful, you tell people about it. It's natural. And so instead of telling people, "Oh, I read this great book," you might do that, but instead you say, "Oh, here's a great topic I did with my kids."
Right.
And it'll be a natural overflow. It'll start to create buzz, start to create culture when you start at home.
That's good. Before we go on to the second tip, what about for the pastor who's out there, who's an empty nester? They don't have any kids at home anymore.
Right.
How would that person start at home?
Well, I don't have any kids at home anymore.
Okay.
So I could do it with my wife. And so together we incorporate topics. I mean, they're different than kids' topics.
Right.
They're topics that relate to things that are interesting to us or that we're going through in life.
Right.
There's great topics on life and on faith and
marriage
because
topics.
There's marriage topics and we
Couples
even
topics.
do ministry topics together because she's ministry minded and she's mentoring other people, and so we do even those topics together. We just do it, and again, I can send her the link and say, "Hey, tomorrow night when we have a regular appointment, let's look at this one."
Yeah.
Gives her a chance to look at it in advance. Or sometimes I'll just spontaneously, we'll see one that, it just came out. And go, "Hey, honey, this would be a great one. Let's watch this." We just watch it together.
And then talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can imagine some pastors are out there saying, "Wait a second, hold on a second. Ross, you want me to sit down with my wife and do this structured, you see where I'm going with this?"
Right.
Because I've heard this from a lot of guys.
Yeah.
No, come on. I mean, maybe with my kids, But with my wife, like that seems stiff and structured, and we've known each other, we've been married for 30 years, or maybe we already pray together, or we already do a Bible study together. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, it works for us. The thing is, it doesn't have to be super structured. You don't have to walk through every single question on the list in a rigid way.
Yeah.
You know, you can, especially if you read and plan in advance a little bit, you kind of know where the questions are going.
Right.
You can pick one or two that you know is relevant to your relationship where you're at right now.
Right.
And you can even pick a topic that's relevant to where you're at right now.
Yeah, that's good.
And so it doesn't have to be super stilted.
Okay, so that's your first tip, is to do it at home first before you introduce it to your whole church.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
You got one more really good tip for pastors who want to sort of slowly introduce this culturally before they introduce it institutionally.
Right, and I think this is the feedback I've gotten is that, like, well, wait, we can't add all this time to everybody's schedule. Our leaders are busy, and you're asking us to coach them in terms of their ministry responsibilities and all the rest,
Right.
and then we're going to add a mentoring meeting, and that's not possible.
Right.
And so basically, the transitional step, or the way to introduce it as culture before structure, is to introduce a conversation using the tools into the meetings that you're already having. So if I'm already meeting with my board of elders, or whatever you call it in your denomination, if we're already meeting, well, you might already be doing a devotional. You might not, but you could introduce this, then to say the first 15 minutes of our meeting on our agenda, and I'll send you the link with the agenda for the meeting.
Yeah.
You watch the video, and then we talk about it together.
Yeah.
And that introduces some great spiritual topics, some great leadership topics into the conversation. They're going to help your leaders, but it also acquaints them with the methodology, and they begin to get used to it. So whether it's a group meeting, or I'm meeting individually with a member of my staff, or with a team leader, then I can use the tool without having to create another appointment in the calendar, and they can start to see it, they'll start to get it, and then the next time we meet, I can ask them to lead because they've seen me do it. The tool's so simple, it's reproducible. I can ask someone else to lead that discussion at the next board meeting.
Yeah, so you start with a topic in your meeting. So let's just get specific. Let's say that it's a 90-minute meeting. How long do you recommend covering a topic for in a 90-minute meeting?
I think 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
It's enough for people to have a meaningful interaction, especially if they've already watched the video in advance.
Right.
It's going to be 6 or 7 minutes of their time,
Right.
and then have a good interaction, and then you get on to business.
Yeah, and it's good. I think what's good about it is you could think about the topics you can cover now with your elders. Aside from whatever else is on the agenda, you can throw in something there on Calvinism if you wanted to. If that's important to you, or if you think that's interesting, you could throw something in there on giving.
Right.
Why you should give. You can throw something in there on porn. I mean, that's a good thing to talk about with your elders, right? Just to say, hey guys, just a little checkup for us on this. It doesn't even have to be always a leadership topic, although I think
or
those
a
are
ministry
good.
topic,
Or
even though we have some really good stuff in the library on leadership and ministry,
Right.
but life and faith topics in general.
Right.
Because hopefully they're interacting with other people, and the idea is that they're going to be the seeds of the mentoring, disciple-making process, so they need to see all the things that are in the library, and how practical it is, and how useful it is.
And so then I guess you could say then eventually with your family, or with your elder team, or with your staff, eventually then you go to mentor training.
Right, absolutely.
And now the topics are mentor training topics. You train them up on something that they've experienced culturally with you for 3 months. And you say, hey, we're going to do mentor training for the next 3 weeks, and then we're all going to get out there and start mentoring people. And so that's the point, pastors, leaders. If you're trying to roll it out, I know it can be overwhelming, and we've done this, and so we know that this works. We still do this in our meetings. Just start simply. Start at home, and then just add a little topic to your already scheduled agendas in your meetings. Start doing the method, using the tools, and pretty soon people will say, oh, this is easy. I'm going to do this at work. I'm going to do this at home. I'm going to do this in my neighborhood. I'm going to do this in my small group.
Right.
And you're starting to roll out a discipleship culture. So there's your tip for today. We'll see you in the next video.